part of the course is titled Touchy Subjects. There's a reason I called it Touchy Subjects, because a lot of the subjects I'm going to discuss are very touchy. So let's discuss a few of these touchy subjects. I decided to write this chapter because I want to bring up a few topics that people avoid talking about in the fashion industry. These topics may be touchy, but they are the truth of this industry. Like real life, the fashion industry is full of good and bad people. And it is up to you to make the right decision. I will attempt to cover all of these touchy subjects in depth to give more perspective on how you can avoid falling victim to any of these pitfalls. Remember that you can always say no and walk away from any situation. You do not have to trade your soul for booking a job. Now, the first touchy subject I'm going to talk about is money management. One thing agents don't talk about to models is how to manage their money. Model agents are notorious for having various hidden fees and overcharging models. Most models do not have any financial education and often get ripped off by agencies. An example of this is agents charge models 5% plus to advance money after a job. The billing cycle for the client is 30 days, but it may take up to 60 days for the model to get paid. Sometimes the model needs money to live, so they take an advance from the agency. The agency charges a fee for this. This could be 5% plus. Some agents have been found to have already been paid by the client, yet they still invoice the model exorbitant fees for an advance. Agents have also been known to mismanage their model's funds. Some agents run an account for the model on their books and invoice the model for everything. So they may book flights, pay rent and expenses for the model and bill them later. The agencies do not necessarily try and find the best deals for their models, especially if she's making a lot of money. They book whatever they think the model may like or deserve without considering the price. The thing here is that you could be making thousands and your agency is spending it on your behalf without even keeping track of what is being spent. This is very dangerous, as by the time you come in to get your funds, the agency will produce a long list of expenses and you may have hardly anything left. Models have to be financially savvy. You work hard to make your money, so you cannot let anyone take advantage of your lack of financial know-how. I would advise you to get some financial education. There are lots of online resources out there that you can use. In today's world, you can pay as little as $11.99 on Udemy to learn a bit about your finances. The truth of the matter is that many models end up broke due to the lack of financial education and money management. Agents know this, and the bad ones take advantage of it. It is a good idea, if you are young, to have a mentor that helps you plan financially. Yes, modeling can be lucrative, but first-class flights can also be very expensive. The agency will assume you want a first-class flight if you are making tons of money, so they will book you one. Meanwhile, you may have been able to use your Sky Miles and fly premium economy for half the price. In the modeling high fashion industry, you are practically finished as soon as you are 26 years old, unless you are a breakout star or a brand. So be sure to learn how to manage your money. Now let's talk about education. Most models start rather young and get disrupted from school as their career requires them to start young. I want to emphasize that a good 70% of the models will never make a full-time living from modeling. So it's smart to start thinking of what you want to do either after your career is over or whilst you're a model. Some models have part-time jobs but focus mostly on modeling as they are hoping to make it one day. My advice to you is don't sweat it. There will be a lot of time, so use it wisely. Again, the good news today is you can go and study online. Find something you love, get good at it. So if all else fails, you have something to fall back on. Nothing is set in stone in the world of modeling, so you don't have to let time fly by. Use your youth wisely. Follow your modeling dreams, but at the same time, don't lose your ambition to do the things you have to do in life. Time flies and things change, so be prepared to change with them. Get a skill aside from modeling, as you may need to rely on it if things don't work out. If you can't afford college, then start some online courses. It is of utmost importance. Your future depends on this. The next thing I'm going to talk about is race and prejudice. This is a subject that a lot of people like to avoid. When I was modeling full-time, racism existed in plain sight. The industry was prejudiced against models of color. The discrimination against black models at the time was just out of this world. There were clients that would not book black models because, they were black, and some clients did not even book any ethnic minorities, be it black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. Racism in the modeling industry did exist back then. Now, the amount of racism has considerably gone down, but there are some elements of racism that still exist in this industry. When I was modeling in my day, clients would call agents if black models turned up for auditions, and they would be like, I told you no ethnic girls, I told you no black girls, or whatever. But these days that doesn't happen anymore. And if it happens, you know what to do. You're responsible for your own life and your own future, so don't let anybody talk to you as if you are substandard, because you are not. The truth was that in those days, agencies knew about the racism going on in the industry, but there was not much they could do about it, as they depended on these clients to book their models. There was, and still is, prejudice on the runway. Sometimes designers would not use models of color in their runway shows, and when they did, they would say things like, there's only space for one model of color on my runway, while they would book 20 or something Caucasian models. I'm talking about this because racism has been brought up a lot in modeling, and that's why I wanted to bring this topic up. It's an important topic that I think people should know about, especially when you're young, and I don't want you to go around feeling that you are less than, because you're not. A client's decision does not affect you. The only person that affects you is the way you think about yourself. Agents and agencies used to allow this to happen, though many of them tried to help models of color by representing them and forcing clients to see them. However, because of the lack of work for models of color, most agencies only represented a handful. Basically, for every 50 white models, an agency would represent one model of color. Things have changed a lot since then. Markets are more receptive to models of color. Now, clients are much more open and willing to use all races and nationalities. All clients these days want to be inclusive, and there are many models of color that are blazing the way forward on the modeling scene and runway scene. These models include Alec Weck, Leah Kadebe, Maria Borges, Cindy Brunner, Jordan Dunn, and Jasmine Tukes. Even though things have moved forward, elements of racism and prejudice remain. There are still not enough opportunities out there for models of color, and you may often feel as if you are being judged by your color and not by your talent. If you get to work on a job, meet an agency or client, and you feel as if they are racist or prejudiced toward you, kindly make it known. This should not happen, period. Let your parents, agents, managers, or guardians know. If you're being harassed, call the authorities. There's no excuse for racism or prejudice on a modeling set. The next touchy subject I'm going to talk about now is nepotism. Nepotism is something which is kind of like a gray area because, people love to help their friends. We all help people we like. It's part of life. But nepotism in the modeling industry is out of this world. Nepotism, a form of favoritism that is granted to relatives or friends, exists in every field, but it is highly prevalent in the modeling industry. Many of the world's top models, including Kaya Gerber, Kate Moss, Adwoa Aboah, Gigi Hadid, Bella Hadid, Kendall Jenner, Cara Delevingne, Poppy Delevingne, and many more celebrity kids, rose to fame on the backs of their parents' connections. I could go on and on and on about this. They are either daughters or sons of somebody, and a lot of them, had connections. And as I said, people help people they like. So that said, you have to be aware of nepotism in the modeling industry, and it just happens. And I can go into this section and take specific examples of children of famous people or whose parents are in the industry that have helped them become famous. But I'm not going to do that. I would leave that up to you to do the research, and you can find out for yourself who these people are. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just making you aware so you don't feel like you are less than, because you are not less than just because someone is using their connections to get ahead of you. It's just the way it's just the way life works. For example, Kaya Gerber is Cindy Crawford's daughter, and it's fortunately for her. She has her mother's face and she looks good, and she has a great body. She's a great model, but her mom being famous definitely helped her. Same thing with Kendall Jenner. She's Kim Kardashian's sister. Because she's Kim Kardashian's sister, it was easier for her to get into the modeling industry, but she's still a great model and she has a great body. And I know you are at home and you are probably a great model too, but you don't have those family connections. You can think of Vanessa Paradis and Johnny Depp's daughter Lily Rose, and how she became the Chanel Muse, and there are several other examples of this. So the reason I bring up nepotism in this whole course is so that you never feel less than, because you might not have the connections, but you have the determination, the focus, and you are 100% authentic. So therefore, you're most likely going to make it if you keep on trying. You start to realize that nepotism is a common occurrence in the modeling industry. That said, nepotism is also rampant in many industries. And in countries like the United Kingdom, nepotism is a part of the system in general. By the way, that's trying to be changed now. The reason I'm telling you this is so that you do not get disheartened when you've been trying to get an agent and you realize that somebody who is a celebrity's daughter or son is all of a sudden on the cover of a magazine. The result of nepotism is obvious. When models whose parents are famous, photographers, agents, managers, stylists, or makeup artists become top models, their parents are friends with other leading photographers and image makers in the industry, and they help them stay and get to the top. A classic case of people helping people they like. Nepotism is rife in every field, and in modeling, nepotism happens on every level. Make sure to put your best foot forward and be ahead of your peers. These simple tricks and tips we have talked about will help you rise slightly above the others in the game. I mean, your family is probably not famous, your parents are not super rich, you're not the cousin of the editor of Vogue, and you're not friends with a famous photographer. That's why you have to be professional, as stated in this course, and use some of the hacks I talked about earlier to pave your way forward. If you're polite, professional, and you get there on time, and you meet with industry standards and have a good work ethic, you will most likely end up getting work anyway. So don't stress yourself out about models that use their connections to rise to the top. But remember, and I say it again, modeling is a tough profession, and you need grit, discipline, and a lot of energy to keep yourself at the top.